The Galactic Concord had one rule above all others. A rule spoken in hushed voices, carved into the diplomatic halls of 1,000 empires, and etched into the databanks of every war fleet that roamed the stars. Never mess with humans. Every species in the galaxy knew why. Some had learned the hard way. Some had been lucky enough to heed the warnings before it was too late. The humans, against all logic and reason, were different. Their adaptability was unnatural. Their resilience defied physics. Their ingenuity was terrifying. And yet, for the first time in over a century, someone had broken the rule. #### The Archeon Offensive. High Admiral Vyrek of the Archeon Dominion stood aboard the Lament of Conquest, his 4 muscular arms folded across his armored chest. Before him, the war map glowed with strategic data, displaying the blue-green orb of Earth, surrounded by the orbital defenses of the Terran Republic. It was a modest defense grid, laughable really, compared to the Dominion's fleet of dreadnoughts, carriers and shock troops. "This is madness, High Admiral," grumbled General Kurlok, his mandibles clicking in frustration. "We cannot do this. The Council is weak," Vyrek growled. His amber eyes burned with ambition. "For 100 years the galaxy has cowered before the humans. What? Because of old myths? Superstitions? We are the Archeon Dominion. We do not fear stories." Kurlok's carapace shuddered. "These are not stories, Admiral. They are warnings." Vyrek sneered. "Then let history remember us as the first to conquer the unconquerable." With a motion of his clawed hand, he activated the fleet-wide transmission. "All ships engage." And just like that, the rule was broken. #### First contact. The wrong way. The first wave of the Archeon fleet surged forward, a wall of metal and plasma fire. Thousands of attack drones screamed ahead, followed by wave upon wave of capital ships, bristling with ion cannons and fusion warheads. Their target, Earth's primary defense station, Argos Prime. The battle was over before it began. Within minutes, Argos Prime's shields flickered and collapsed under the relentless barrage. The station's return fire was pitiful, archaic railguns and outdated missile silos. The Archeans carved through it like a plasma torch through ice, reducing it to a burning wreck. The Dominion forces cheered. The humans barely put up a fight. Maybe the myths were exaggerated. Maybe. The second wave never returned. #### The Missing Fleet. Admiral Vyrek frowned at the holomap. It didn't make sense. A detachment of 20 warships, all veteran-class cruisers, had entered Earth's atmosphere to begin their ground invasion. Their last transmission reported no resistance, only silence. Then they vanished. No distress beacons. No wreckage. No enemy fire. Just nothing. "Have they been destroyed?" one of Vyrek's officers asked. The Admiral's claws flexed. "Impossible. Not without a fight." Kurlok shifted uneasily. "Humans, they don't fight conventionally." Vyrek turned on him with a glare. "Then how do they fight?" Before the general could answer, an alarm blared. Intrusion detected. Vyrek spun back to the war map. The Dominion fleet, his entire fleet, was blinking out of existence one ship at a time. No explosions. No transmissions. They simply disappeared. And then, for the first time, the humans responded. A single message broadcasted across every frequency. A woman's voice. "Come. Cold. Absolute. You should not have come." Vyrek's blood turned to ice. They had broken the rule. And now they would learn why. Vyrek's mind reeled as the message echoed through the Lament of Conquest's bridge. "You should not have come." That voice. It wasn't angry. It wasn't frightened. It was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that came from absolute certainty. The kind that suggested the battle was already over. Vyrek had faced countless enemies before. Rebels, warlords, entire planetary resistance movements, but nothing had ever unnerved him like this. "Admiral," a communications officer stammered, his scaled fingers trembling over the console. "That transmission, it's coming from inside our fleet?" Vyrek's claws clenched. "Inside." The officer swallowed. "Yes, sir. Not from Earth. Not from the planetary defenses. It's being broadcasted from multiple ships, including ours." A cold dread settled over the bridge. Kurlok stepped forward, his mandibles clicking in growing horror. "They're on our ships?" "No," Vyrek growled, shaking off the rising unease. "Impossible. No enemy forces boarded us." But even as he said it, he didn't believe it. Something was very, very wrong. #### The Silent War begins. Status on the missing fleet? Virek demanded. A tactical officer's fingers darted across his console. Scanning, no wreckage. No debris. Just empty space where they should be. Gone. 20 Dominion warships. Thousands of elite warriors. Simply erased. Another officer stiffened. Admiral. We just lost the vengeance of Kareth. What do you mean lost? Virek snapped. The officer's eyes were wide with disbelief. It just vanished. One moment it was there, reading normal life signs. Then all systems went dark. No explosions. No energy spikes. Just nothing. It was happening again. Another blip disappeared from the war map. Then another. And another. A silent execution happening in real time. This wasn't a battle. It was a hunt. And they were the prey. ##### a desperate move. We need to regroup. Kurlok hissed. Pull the fleet back. We are being picked apart. Virek hesitated. Retreat was dishonorable. It was against everything the Dominion stood for. But he wasn't a fool. Staying meant annihilation. Order the fleet to form a defensive perimeter around the flagship, he commanded. Nothing enters or leaves without my authorization. Shields at maximum. The order went out. Dominion ships tightened formation, locking down their defenses. And for a moment, silence. Then, Admiral? The voice returned. The same woman. Come. Unshaken. You're making this harder on yourselves? And suddenly, the lament of conquest shook violently. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks. The lights flickered. Status? Virek roared. Power drain, an engineer barked. Something is. A new warning flared across the holomap. Red. Aboard every remaining ship in the fleet. Life support systems. Offline. #### survive if you can. Panic swept through the bridge as oxygen levels dropped. Crew members gasped, their exoskeletons straining. Emergency reserves activated, a technician cried. We have 10 minutes before complete atmospheric loss. Virek's mind raced. The humans weren't destroying them conventionally. No bombardment. No invasions. They were shutting them down. System by system. Ship by ship. Restart life support manually, he ordered. The engineers worked frantically, bypassing security protocols. But the moment they tried, override denied. The humans were in control. And then one final transmission. One that turned Virek's blood to ice. A live feed flickered onto the main screen. The image of the vengeance of Kareth, one of the missing Dominion warships. Intact. Floating. Dark. And inside, through the viewing window, the entire crew was gone. No bodies. No blood. Just empty uniforms and armor lying where warriors once stood. As if they had simply ceased to exist. Kurlok made a strangled noise, stepping back in terror. The humans had taken them. Without firing a shot. Virek's throat tightened. Now he understood. This was why the galaxy feared them. This was why the rule existed. And he had broken it. Virek had fought countless wars, crushed entire civilizations, and faced down horrors from the far reaches of space. But nothing had ever made him feel powerless. Not until now. Not until he watched the vengeance of Kareth drift lifelessly through the void, its entire crew gone. Not dead. Not slaughtered. Simply a missing. The same fate was spreading across his fleet. One by one, Dominion warships were vanishing. No explosions. No battles. No signs of struggle. Just empty hulks floating in space, abandoned by their warriors. Virek's claws tightened into fists. How are they doing this? The question hung in the air like a death sentence. No one had an answer. Admiral, Kurlok's voice was barely above a whisper. We need to. The ship trembled. Not from an attack. Not from an impact. From something inside. Something unseen. Something moving among them. #### the enemy you can't fight. Containment teams report. Virek barked. Silence. He switched channels. Security, do you see anything? Still nothing. Virek turned to his officers. His crew. His warriors. Their fear was palpable now, radiating through the bridge like a sickness. Even Kurlok, a battle-hardened general, was gripping his sidearm with trembling claws. Then, a scream. Not a battle cry. Not a warrior's death howl. A pure, raw, primal scream of horror. The bridge crew snapped to attention. The sound was coming from the lower decks. Then another. Then another. Screams. Shouts. The sound of weapons discharging. Then silence. Virek activated the internal ship feed. The security cameras flickered on. The lower decks of the Lament of Conquest appeared on the screen, empty. No bodies. No blood. Just abandoned weapons lying where warriors once stood. And then, the footage skipped. A single frame of something moving. Something humanoid. Something impossibly fast. Then the camera feed cut out. A cold dread spread through Virek's chest. They're inside the ship. #### fight or flee? Seal the bridge. Virek commanded. No one enters or leaves without my direct order. Kurlok's mandibles clicked in protest. That won't matter. They're taking us without even being seen. He was right. The humans weren't fighting conventionally. They weren't engaging in direct combat. They were erasing the Dominion forces, slipping past every defense as if they didn't even exist. Virek turned to his engineers. How many ships are left? One of them swallowed hard. Out of 300. He hesitated, his scaled fingers trembling. 39 remain. Virek felt his stomach drop. 300 of the Dominion's finest warships had arrived in Terran space. Now only 39 were left. And whatever was hunting them wasn't stopping. #### the humans speak. Then the voice returned. You should have listened. The woman again. Come. Cold. Absolute. Virek gritted his teeth. Who are you? He demanded. What do you want? There was a pause. Then. We want you gone. The bridge lights flickered again. Kurlok took a step back, his claws gripping the console for support. We need to retreat, he said, barely above a whisper. Now. Virek clenched his jaw. Retreat meant shame. It meant humiliation. It meant proving that the humans were everything the myths had warned them about. But staying meant annihilation. And there was no honor in dying like this. Order all surviving ships to fall back, he said, his voice strained. Maximum warp speed. Now. A desperate scramble followed. Commands were issued. Engines roared to life. The remaining warships turned, fleeing from Earth's orbit like prey escaping a predator's den. Virek watched the war map as his fleet retreated. The ships began their hyperspace jumps one by one, each blinking out of existence. Then, the Lament of Conquest shuddered violently. Warning sirens blared. Virek's blood ran cold. The ship wasn't moving. #### too late. Engine failure, a technician cried. Something's holding us here. Virek turned to his engineers. Override it. We're trying. It's like, the ship isn't responding. On the war map, he saw the last of his fleet vanish into hyperspace. They were alone now. And then, the bridge doors hissed open. Everyone turned. Weapons raised. No one had authorized the doors to open. Virek's grip tightened on his plasma pistol. Who's there? Silence. Then, footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. And from the darkness, a figure emerged. A human. A woman clad in sleek black armor, her eyes glowing faintly with cybernetic enhancements. No weapons in her hands. No fear in her posture. Just a smile. And then she spoke, her voice dripping with certainty. You should have followed the rule. Virek aimed his pistol and fired. The blast passed through empty air. The woman was already gone. And then, darkness. Virek had faced death before. He had stood in the heart of battle, watched warriors fall, and carved his name into the annals of Dominion history with blood and fire. But this was something else entirely. The woman had vanished the moment he fired. No flash of teleportation. No energy displacement. 1 second she was there. The next she was nowhere. The bridge crew was frozen in place, weapons trembling in their claws. No one spoke. No one moved. Then, Virek, his name, whispered right behind him. He whirled around, firing wildly, only for the shot to flicker out of existence as if space itself refused to let him fight back. Then his arm locked up. He gasped. His limbs refused to move. His body felt heavy, like the very air around him was pressing inward, restricting him, crushing him. Around the bridge, his crew dropped their weapons, their eyes widening in horror. They couldn't move either. The woman stepped forward, her form materializing like a phantom emerging from mist. Her voice remained calm, controlled. You came here expecting war. She tilted her head. But war is messy. War is inefficient. She gestured slightly, and Virek felt something cold slither through his mind. It wasn't pain. It wasn't fear. It was understanding. A terrible, dawning understanding. This isn't a battle. This is a message ****. The woman's eyes glowed brighter. You thought you were the hunters. The bridge flickered, one moment intact, the next moment an image of an empty ship, abandoned uniforms strewn across the floor. As if time was already showing him his fate. You were prey the moment you arrived. Virek gritted his teeth. What are you? The woman's expression didn't change. We are human? She raised a hand. And then Virek understood why no one ever messed with them. ####, a new rule is written. A single Dominion ship limped back into Archeon space, months after it had gone missing. The lament of conquest. But it was empty. No crew. No distress calls. No signs of struggle. The Archeans who boarded the ship found it perfectly intact, except for one thing. A single message burned into the ship's main console. We let this one return so you would remember. The Dominion Council read the report in silence. Then, without debate, without hesitation, they issued a new decree. A law that would be passed down through generations. Never mess with humans. Not now. Not ever. ####, the rule stands. Far away on a quiet blue-green planet, a woman in black armor stood in a hidden command center, watching the last Dominion ship disappear from orbit. She tapped her communicator. All units stand down. They're gone. A voice crackled back. That was the last one? She smirked. Yes. And they won't be coming back. The voice chuckled. They never learn, do they? She shook her head. No. But now they will. She turned, walking away as Earth spun lazily beneath her. The galaxy had been reminded. The rule would not be broken again. Not if humanity had anything to say about it.